So good evening, everyone. It's so great to see all these faces on screen and in here. And it's so interesting now how every night it's like a whole other world of people that Thursday nights are not Tuesday nights. And yet here we are doing the same thing. So welcome to our Fusatsu ceremony, our ceremony of atoning, for which I think we need to do endlessly. And if there's nothing else this ceremony does is kind of, I think, reinforce that quality of endlessness. We keep doing the same things again and again and again and again until we think, oh my God, can I do this one more time? Somehow we do it. And it's actually each time always different. And hopefully this process of atonement affords us the same possibility with the karma in our lives by actually really making contact with it and looking at it and feeling it and experiencing it and making amends for it and vowing again and again to try to change it, even if sometimes that feels like it's not happening and it may never happen. But we have faith, we have determination, and we have great effort. And we keep snipping away. For some reason, while I was bowing there and kneeling, I was looking at the altar and I was remembering how many, many years ago, Myoko Roshi's Dharma sister, Myoko Roshi, came and visited the Village Zendo, and we had just gotten this manjushri. And she was commenting on how unusual it was and nice it was that our manjushri, usually manjushri has these wild swords, this very large, kind of fierce sword to chop away all our delusions and ideas. And our manjushri, not so much. It's like it's almost like a little pair of scissors. It's kind of like snip, snip, chip, chip, chip. Maybe you get a chop in there. And I think that's kind of, in my experience, really more like how it actually goes. So for those of you, and lucky for us, there's always some new people in the group, just a very broad overview of the ceremony. We start with the Gatha of Atonement, where we vow to atone, to just make contact with all of our own unskillful and harmful actions. And to actually own it. Be willing to look at it and to go there and to make contact with it. And the longer you do this, the more surprising ways we see how much of our behavior is based on not doing that and trying to hide from it and not see it, to run away from it and to not feel it. Then it takes a lot of strength and energies to do that. So then we bring on all the various Buddha and enlightening energies, bowing down to them, sort of almost summoning that energy up from the ground and trying to make contact with it inside of ourselves. And then we chant our 4 vows, which we do every night at the Zendo. And then in this part of the ceremony, I or whoever is sitting here just talks about maybe one of the precepts and how it might help us. So just very, very, very quickly, just the 10 precepts for those of you who are new, and I'm just gonna look at them because the longer I do this, the less I can remember, unfortunately. But not killing is number 1. Non-stealing. Thank you. Not misusing sex. Not lying. Not being ignorant. Not talking about others' errors and faults. And this is a big one right now, boy. Not elevating oneself and blaming others. Not being stingy. Not being angry. And not thinking ill of the 3 treasures. So I had a very, very difficult time trying to decide which one to talk about tonight. But I landed on the precept of not indulging in anger. But I thought I had read this beautiful passage by Rainer Rilke, and it really touched me in a way I feel like it really captures a way and a means for how we can use the precepts, how we can meet them. Think, dear friend, reflect on the world that you carry within yourself, and name this thinking what you wish. Just be sure you observe carefully what wells up within you, and place that above everything that you notice around you. Your innermost happening is worth all of your love. You must somehow work on that. And I think for myself, that last line is both the most challenging part of working with the precepts in some ways, but also I'm finding the only way that I can actually allow them to seep in and penetrate. it's so easy to scold ourselves and to admonish ourselves and to berate ourselves and just generally nudge ourselves in not very loving ways, which can actually make us, even though we can talk about the precepts and acknowledge them, actually become very hard on ourselves because we fail at them all the time. There are so many things that we can always judge ourselves for. And we do that. And I honestly think that so much of the most harmful activity that goes out into the world is because we're not dealing with our own shit. And we turn it outwards. And it can be very hard to experience our anxiety, our fear, our anger. For me, giving a talk, it's like for starting like 3 days before, the energy in my body is like I'm plugged into an electric socket. It's like, it's just like all alarms are on. It is like I am so uncomfortable with myself. I want to just jump out of my skin. I want to distract my attention. Think about anything else, but actually just let myself really feel that current. Just really come at it through my body instead of just trying to stop it with my mind. And to try to do that with love, which I feel like after almost 30 years, I'm just beginning to start to learn how to do. So there were a number of ones I was thinking about, but I was going to talk about not blaming others, elevating oneself and blaming others, because, it's just, now you can't go 10 minutes without hearing something that it's just like, okay, I'm not proud of it, but it's like blame, 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 and then I have to come back and realize this is actually bigger than that now. Like, what is going on here now in this world at this time? That it is just so crazy. But then the way things are with information, and I was just starting to kind of get into this more open place around things, and then I just saw, as your phone will do, I wasn't even having it on, but now these alerts, that a judge is going to reconsider the charges against Trump, whether the case is even viable to be brought. And that was just, like 2 hours ago. And for some reason, there was something about that particular one that it was just like, I just felt this rage, like, yeah, I don't even want to say it. It was really not pretty. So what to do with this kind of energy? The precepts, actually, as much as they're sort of guidelines, they also kind of are ways of dealing with approaching these states, and ways to look inside. Almost like tools with which we can dig and open up. In a kind of very open way. So not indulging in anger, Bodhidharma says, self-nature is subtle and mysterious. In the realm of the selfless Dharma, not contriving reality for the self is called the precept of not indulging in anger. And, there's so many layers and levels with which we can go address these things, but in this case, it's just a really good reminder to remember that, my ideas of what reality should be or is not really necessarily is what's happening, that actually it's all much larger and more mysterious, along with more fucked up, but more mysterious under that than what actually we really zoom out can know. And just to sort of remember that not advancing, Dogen says, not advancing, not retreating, not real, not empty. There is an ocean of bright clouds, there is an ocean of solemn clouds. So, I love the way he just sort of addresses that energy of anger as opposed to getting caught in that tight specifics of the violence of it, in a sense. That actually anger can also be a positive thing. Even as it can operate in the darkest of clouds and through the darkest of clouds. It can sort of be a a way of moving through the clouds, but realize to keep moving, to not get stuck. Not get stuck in a thunderball of dark gray rage that has no sense of a larger picture, that doesn't allow the anger to dissipate. Because anger can also, when used skillfully, dissipate something that's very stuck. But not when it's blind and hard. So I think it's just really an advisement to really work with this energy skillfully, to honor it and to not get stuck in it, but to use it. And then lastly, the Zen peacemakers say, transforming suffering into wisdom. This is the precept of not being angry. And so I think that's a very positive way of thinking about our anger, is just really a reminder to use it, to not just add to the negative, violent, destructive energy, but to use it in a way that can transform it. It's not like saying, no, there's no problem, it's fine. It's like there are things to be angry about, but how do we use that anger in a wise way so that it's skillful? And I think they're all asking us to really look at, and this is where I think, and getting back to Rilke's quote, a lot of times I think we can get overly angry at the world because there's a lot inside of us that we're angry about, that we're not addressing, that manifests and just gets projected onto the world. Things in our own life, from our own traumas, our own hurts, our own wounds, our own injustices. That when we don't really let ourselves see them and work with them and feel them and meet them, which is not easy to do, we make everything about them. And there's a lot of that going on right now. Not seeing the complexity and just how complicated we all are. And the world, which is just a compilation of so many complicated beings. In some ways, I think that movie that was called It's Complicated was maybe one of the greatest titles ever. So I would just advise us all, before just jumping and screaming and just making stands, which I think it is important to do, but before just jumping there, to to look inside and to see the full complexity of what's driving it and what we can do inside ourselves and with what's right in front of us to transform it ourselves and what's in front of us to just meet it with love along with the anger. Yeah. So, thank you for listening.